This podcast is brought to you by ITV Studios. From edge-of-your-seat drama to entertainment with serious buzz, we've got it all and then some. Want in? Head to itvstudios.com or grab the ITV Studios Watch Anywhere app to stream full episodes anytime, even offline. Big drama, bold formats, real stories, all under one roof from ITV Studios.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to part 2 of our TellyCast MIPCOM special. And it's all about the creator economy this week. We're going to be speaking to Digital First Studios, TV industry execs and insiders on the creator economy. Let's get into it. So I'm here with Gerrit Kemming, MD of Quintus Studios. Gerrit, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. It's always great to have a chat with really one of the pioneers in the digital video space.
Thanks very much.
This year, it's really interesting that MIPCOM is focusing more on creator economy and perhaps more of the subjects that you're very much involved with. How do you see how the market has evolved over the last 12 months in particular when it comes to digital video and the merging of these worlds of traditional TV and YouTube, for example?
I think, so when I was here last year, exactly 12 months ago, right? So my feeling was that market, that even the last person in the industry finally realized there is something going on in TV, right? Which has been for the last decade. But but I think there, especially in the last 12 months, everyone understood there is something going on. And as usual in the industry, when there is a disruption, everyone is looking for what is the next big thing, right? And whereas fast was the big buzzword 3, 4, 5 years ago, now it's YouTube, right? For the last 12 months, it was. I think the difference is that YouTube can prove that it will be the future because it is by far the biggest platform of watching video and TV on the planet. So this will not just be a trend, it's going to be the future. And that is my feeling, that even the big broadcasters, networks, all the big content companies now shift to YouTube. Not fully, of course, but as part of their future plans.
Yeah, it's almost like future-proofing their businesses. They're finally, why has it taken them so long? Because you've been, like you said, it's the last decade or so that you've been working at Quintus Studios and working with YouTube and building Free Documentary, for example, which is, how many followers, subscribers?
Well, that channel alone is like roughly 6 million. In total, we have in our network over 16 million subscribers.
Yeah. So why do you think it's taken so long for these traditional media businesses to realize the opportunity and the threat, I suppose, of YouTube?
Yeah, well, it's the classical innovators dilemma, right? So they had this big cash cow business with TV and broadcasting, and if they would feed their future enemy, why would they, right? There was this point where they should have realized there is no way how this will ever die. It will come up. And they could have turned a bit earlier into it. But I think they were just, they were just playing on their cash cow business and trying to hold it up as long as possible. Who could blame them, right? But now they realize we need to do something on there. And with their strength and their money and their power, they become a big player on YouTube. So I don't know if it's too late for them. It's just they now changed. So YouTube now really changes, and also going into the professional long form content business. It has always done as part of the big range of content that is on that platform. But it feels like now there is a real focus also for YouTube to go towards the big professional industry world, and vice versa, right? And that is that. So those words just merge now.
Yeah.
So that is really interesting, I guess.
Yeah. And then we talked about Free Documentary, mentioned that a minute ago, but how is your business evolving in terms of the type of content and the channels that you're building and the genres that you're operating in?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I said that we started about a decade ago with our first YouTube channel. But what we did was, so we weren't really a digital company back then, because we had digital channels, but the content was still very much TV centric, right? So what we did was we just bought or licensed content and curated them into channels. And then the channels grew so much that we were able to produce our own content for our channels. But because the channels were all fueled by professional TV content, the content that we were producing also had to be TV content. And for us, it was also good because we were still the global licensing agency. So we could sell the stuff that we produced for our channels into the linear world outside of our footprint, right? So that totally made sense. But especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, where, as I said before, those two worlds merge, we also realized there is a content world that is really interesting, not only in terms of flexibility, but also in terms of revenues, that is outside of the TV content part, right? So what we started is a strategy and departments that look into content that is purely digital, that is where TV doesn't play a role anymore. That is creator-focused formats, that is building up channels with content, what we call, for example, Gen Z docs, where we create or where we develop ourselves as a faceless creator world. So all this part is becoming very interesting. The problem with that is that this is not user-generated content, Gerrit walking around with his mobile phone and, filming this yacht down there. It's really professional. So that means it's complex and it's also expensive to produce this stuff. And without having TV as a second revenue source besides YouTube, so TV as license your content and get the license money, you need to have a second revenue source, and that is more and more the brand's world, right? So, and that is also very interesting. That the role of brands in the future, they have always played a big role, but it will be even more crucial to see brands as kind of like broadcasters themselves or co-financiers in the production process.
Looking forward 12 months, which is always a challenging thing to do when it comes to digital video. But where do you want Quintus Studios to be the next time we come round to MIPCOM? What is your ambitions for the business that we can talk about in 12 months' time?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Yeah, it's a long time in the digital world, but yeah. So I mean, we are on the way to what I would call a 360 content studio in the creator economy world. That is a very long and uncatchy word, but what I mean with that is we will still do our TV content channel business. That is at the moment still our core business. We will still produce for this in cooperation with linear channels, probably even more so, because especially in the past 12 months, what we felt was like the TV world with their, downcoming budgets go exactly into what we've been doing for the last 5-6 years, right? Producing on low budgets on a really decent and good level of quality. So we might even do more in that space. But at the same time, we will grow our Gen Z doc channels. We will grow our digital format content departments. And so from linear to purely digital, and everything in between, we will do the full range of content.
All right. Well, I look forward to catching up in 12 months' time, and we'll see how much of that you've achieved. Yeah. I'm sure you'll achieve all of that. Quintus Studios, I think, is a really interesting business and interesting template for everybody to follow. But Gerrit, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thanks.
So I'm here with Paul Telner from Viral Nation here at the MIP Creative Hub. Good to see you, Paul.
Thank you for having me here. We're by the beach. I'm not really a beach guy, so this is a treat to be by a beach. And if I'm going to be by a beach, I like to do an interview by the beach. So this is the perfect place.
And you do an interview with the Drop and
I love it, and I'm a big fan of what you guys do. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Paul, tell us about Viral Nation first of all.
Yeah, so Viral Nation is one of the biggest creator representation firms in the world. We have an incredible roster of some of the biggest creators across gaming and music and comedy. We have a tech division. We have a brand division. I help lead original content. So expanding IP based on what the creators do to multiple different screens. And we are all about social media and creators. We really believe everything is on social, and that is what we live, breathe, and sleep.
And how long's the company been established?
Yeah, it's been around for about 11 years. Canadian-owned, based in Toronto. Employees across Canada and the US. And it's just the type of place where anything can happen. Super entrepreneurial, and really believe in the creator economy, the attention economy, and that everything should be on social.
Yeah, and you've just announced a deal here with Fremantle.
Yeah, really exciting. We did a really great trend report, 15-minute trend report this morning about what's happening in the industry. And then we dropped a great announcement about a partnership between Viral Nation and Fremantle, which will be original content, original shows, working closely with creators. And, for me, it's just such a long time coming. First of all, it's an honor to be part of that. But I've always believed in creators from day one. Like, creators at the beginning were like the kids in high school at the dance who were in the corner and we're not necessarily on the main floor. And, we're skateboarding and now they've come to the mainstream. And it's taken years. And I've always been a champion of creators from the very beginning, saying, take a look at these people. They're incredible. And if you think about it, they're entrepreneurs because they're building this entire thing themselves.
So do you think now there's a maturation of the creator economy? It's starting to professionalize. It's starting to really, digital studios that are run by creators are really starting to scale. It's an exciting time.
It's amazing. When I started in this business, I used to have my own YouTube channel in 2005, which might as well been 1965. Most of the footage is still in black and white, but I was one of the original YouTube influencers, and I just remember trying to get people's attention. I had an audience, but people perceived it as homemade, and it's not real, and it's not as good as Hollywood. And to your question, it is completely changed. We are now allowed into the Soho House. We've arrived. Creators are here. We're at MIPCOM right now. YouTube and creators are a big part of this for the very first time. And traditionally, it was very hard to get meetings in Hollywood with the creators. It was always seen as just sort of this black sheep, outcast kind of thing. And now you can't ignore a creator. When you have 20 million subscribers and incredible views consistently across your videos, you are a studio. You are no longer cats dancing and falling off treadmills and living in your parents' basement. That has all changed. There is a maturing to this business. It has become, creators are their own media business. Creators are their own news, their own kids network, their own sports network. They are running media empires out of their houses.
Yeah, and we're seeing, as you said, this sort of acceptance by Hollywood or by the TV industry as a whole now. Yeah. And we're seeing more and more major corporations starting to develop partnerships and think about how they can work with creators. So that's really exciting. I mean, where do you see things going, Paul, in the next 12 months or so? Because we've gone from almost like 0 to 100 in maybe the last 12 months in terms of how the industry is judging creators.
Yeah.
And now it feels like, the scales have tipped slightly. So where do we think, what are going to be the key developments for the creator economy over the next 12 months?
Great question. So here's the thing. We've arrived, creators are here, and mainstream Hollywood is accepting us. But I don't think it's about let's bypass Hollywood and just do it on our own. I think to actually get something made in Hollywood by a creator, you have to incubate it yourself. You have to have a YouTube channel. That's your IP. You're building the data. You're building the audience. You've got the demographics. If you lift under the hood of a YouTube channel, you can prove what works and what doesn't work. So you have to create a track record for yourself of someone who actually wants to see your stuff. And it's got to be pretty large. And then you bring that to a streamer. So I think creators are their own studio. Creators are looking to work with Hollywood, but not do it in a way where Hollywood's going to take everything. There's no need for a creator to do that because they're already making money and doing it on their own. So it's about working together, but in fair deals, in deals that actually make sense for both sides. back in the day, you'd see these contracts from traditional entities and you'd be like, how is this fair? I've done all the work and they're going to. So now it's about really fair contracts, proper deals, and really giving credit to what the creators have done, which if you're an entrepreneur and you start a chain of coffee shops, that's a lot of work. Well, it's the same amount of work if you start a YouTube channel with 10,000 subscribers or 2 million. That's real work. That's belief in yourself. Everybody starts at zero. Yeah. Every major Hollywood studio started at zero. So I have so much respect for these creators, regardless of what they do. They've built an audience, and a Viral Nation, we're here to support them and help monetize it and help bring new opportunities to the table. So I think the sky's the limit for creators. I think you're going to be seeing them in more big box stores, coffee shop, like wherever you go, creators are going to start popping up. They are the new celebrity. And they're much more accessible than mainstream celebrities because you get to follow them every second. They're like your best friend.
Yeah. And so there are obviously lots of different brand deals. Brands play an increasingly important role, not just in funding content, but obviously wanting to work with creators and build that. I mean, as a creator representative, I mean, what do you see the areas of brands starting to partner with creators? What are the most fastest growing areas that you're seeing develop?
Sure. Well, first of all, working with brands has to be authentic. It has to be natural. You can't be a creator who's known for doing something and suddenly you're endorsing a product. The audience will call you out. They'll say, we don't want to do that. Don't do that again. I think sports is really starting to pick up. People love sports on social. That's really a big thing. Gaming has always been popular. Comedy is incredible. We work with this amazing comedian named Murray Hillboy. His real name is Max Cohn. And he does impersonations of his family who are from Long Island. And they're over the top. He plays mom, he plays dad, he plays his sister. And he makes brand deals happen. But you're still watching a Max Cohn video. Yes, he might tease a product or talk about a real estate company. But if you didn't know it was a brand deal, it's still so entertaining. So I think comedy is right for brands. I think sports is right for brands. But audiences want to see their creators not hold up a soda and go, try this, it's delicious. You see how I did that? I looked right in the camera when I said it, as if I was very meta. They want it to be natural. So when I see some of Max's videos, I mean, I work in the business, but I got to tell you, I've seen a few of his videos where I did not realize it was a brand until the end. Like he's talking about a real estate company, he's showing a house and he's acting like he's his mother and he's dressed up as her. So people want it to be natural. Brands are partnering with creators to tell stories, obviously to promote and sell their product, but do it in a way that isn't cheesy, that isn't lame, that doesn't suck, and that the audience goes, yeah, that's cool. They're not a sellout.
And interesting, you mentioned sports. We've seen quite a few deals with creators and digital-first studios now for streaming rights and live streaming on watch-alongs with creators. And I mean, how do you see that side of things developing?
I think people love professional athletes, but they just as much love people who love sports just like them, and they want to get their opinions. Yeah, you can go to all the major sports networks in the U.S. and get people in suits talking about feedback of what they thought of last night's game. I think it's much more interesting to hear someone that looks and feels like me talking about it over pizza and a beer and just talking about it like a regular person. So I think that's what people want. They want authenticity in sports. There is a lane of YouTube where there's trick shots and there's Dude Perfect and there's Chris Staples and Jenna Bandy and all those kind of people. And that's its own lane too. Yeah. But people love everyday people talking about last night's game, talking about the boxing match coming up, and just literally bouncing ideas around like you would with your best friends. Yeah. And that's more interesting to me than three suits sort of talking about last night's game.
Paul, it's been great to
This is fun. This is incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Well, come back on TellyCast anytime. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much. Right. What a pleasure.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So I'm here with Matt Gielen, who's a creative entrepreneur in the creative economy and been involved in the creator economy a number of years, Matt.
Yeah, probably going on damn near 20 at this point. I got my start in New York in the independent film world and worked for a company there called Driver Digital, where I ran production and audience development, and then went to a company called Frederator, most known for making cartoons that are on TV, like Adventure Time and Fairly Odd Parents, and I ran their digital division for a while. And then I started my agency, Little Monster, which primarily worked with traditional media companies like Netflix and MGM and dozens of others, and helping them build their YouTube audiences. And most recently, I exited a company called Electric Monster, where where we acquired digital media assets, primarily YouTube channels, YouTube brands, scaled them up, and then ultimately left in December. And now I'm just getting ready to start my next venture in the space.
All right, interesting. Well, you wrote an article recently which I found really interesting, which particularly in the context of this being the first MIPCOM that's recognised the creator economy, and even I think you could say quite fairly that a number of major media organisations have not taken the creator economy seriously up until now, and many still aren't. Right? Is that fair to say? Do you think?
I don't think so. If I'm being perfectly honest, I mean, Disney bought Maker Studios 10 years ago. Warner Brothers had investments in a number of different creator economy companies, such as Machinima and Fullscreen and many others. I would say it's more the industry at large recognizing that the growth is in the creator economy moving forward as they see linear decline. And so it's kind of the old axiom of like, first they ignore you, blah, 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 that thing, right? Where now it's just gotten too large and there's too much growth and trajectory on it to continue to ignore it. And so it's great to be a part of this at MIPCOM for the first time. And I think we're all looking forward to the future and continuing to build our businesses across the digital space.
You recently wrote an article setting out the different eras of digital video, which I thought was really interesting. So can you sort of give us a bit of a breakdown of your thoughts? Because it was almost a manifesto, I felt. It was a really interesting article. But yeah, explain what you mean by how you see the different phases of digital video. This episode of TellyCast is brought to you with Shaftesbury, the hit-making producer behind international series like Murdoch Mysteries, Hudson and Rex, Departure, and Hell Motel. Shaftesbury builds worldwide fandoms across digital, live events, Roblox and more, creating entertainment brands that live far beyond the screen. Check out Shaftesbury's Jay Bennett on TellyCast, speaking from MIPCOM 2025, sharing how smart marketing, multi-platform rollouts, and innovative IP strategies keep global audiences coming back for more. Shaftesbury, built on legacy, driven by what's next.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for reading and reading between the lines, because it was that in a lot of ways and laid a lot of the groundwork and allowed me to clarify my thinking on exactly what I wanted to do next and how I wanted to approach the next business that I'm building. In terms of the eras, there's kind of like three big eras so far to date in kind of the YouTube, digital media, video creation world. And the first is kind of the same era that always happens. It's experimentation, kicking the tires and seeing what's what. Then was the rise of the MCNs, which were basically Ponzi schemes that didn't work out, as they always don't. And then the third era was kind of the rise of what we call now the creator economy. This was the rise of influencers, where businesses that did provide value to creators and digital media businesses were able to flourish and grow and provide support. And we were really figuring out, how do we make this an actual sustainable business? And I feel like we're moving into a fourth era now, an era of like professionalization and standardization and hopefully scalability. As the business models around digital media IPs and properties and creators really start to flourish. And I would say in the last 2 years is really the first time where that's been like truly possible to build beyond kind of like platform sold advertisements in a meaningful way. There have been for many, many years before, but in a meaningful and scaled way with real businesses, it's now possible as we move into this like fourth-ish era.
And so the fourth digital era means opportunity for digital studios. Are we talking about creators becoming their own digital studios more and more? I mean, obviously, there are many that there are already. But, how do you see these micro businesses? You talk about scalability, scaling, and how do you see them growing? And how would you define, what this next era is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thesis of the article, is that studios that produce YouTube long form content are going to be the ones that really kind of dominate both our attention and the available revenue in the space. And the reason I see that is because first and foremost, YouTube is where audiences spend by far the most time in streaming. We see linear ad dollars declining, while we see CTV and streaming ad dollars increasing year over year, and that's projected to continue to grow. And so you have to think, well, where are those dollars going? And yes, a lot of them are going to places like, Meta and Amazon and other outlets. But a good chunk of that is also going to YouTube, and people's time and attention is at YouTube. And so where do the dollars that go onto YouTube go? Well, they're not going to shorts, right? It's been 3-4 years now. You don't really see a massive flow of ad dollars. RPMs are still near zero in short form. And, when you talk about short form, you really talk about, content that is fleeting. Like it's very, very difficult. And it's definitely the exception, not the rule, that, people don't build brands in short form content. It's very, very rare because you don't spend enough time as an audience with them to actually build a brand and to have any sort of consistency. And so much of the viewership is just completely algorithm driven when it's a feed based system that is very difficult, right? And then the next thing you have is AI, right? And, you can polish a turd all day long, but at the end of the day, it's still a turd. And if you look at AI content, it's fucking turds, right? It's going to be a useful tool and people will use it, but the people that are screaming from the rooftops, you have to embrace it, are the people that have a significant monetary incentive for you to embrace it. And so when you start thinking about who is going to win, it's the people making long form YouTube content, because what are we watching on our TVs? It's long form content and short form content. And I don't know anyone's going to sit through, an hour long podcast of AI slop. Right. And so, with that and the support of other business lines like merchandise, live events, and syndication of content, you really start to see how these businesses are beginning to flourish. And while having one or two strong IPs and businesses that are generating revenue is great, it doesn't give you the same scale that a studio with many different IPs can give you, and what that means from a talent hiring perspective. And I don't just mean on-screen talent, I also mean back office talent, people who know how to rapidly layer in additional business lines to these IPs, to develop new IPs, et cetera. And so that's kind of the 1 minute rapid fire reason why I think digital media studios will really become kind of the dominant form of entertainment in the digital media and entertainment space in the coming 5 to 10 years.
So coming back to what you said about short form and IP and building brands through short form. Now we've seen obviously microdrama, a lot of quite significant announcements I think over the last week or so. First of those is Night Train Digital and Spirit Studios in the UK going into business together to create you could probably call it premium drama. So it's not the sort of drama, short drama that you might see on Real Shorts or some of those other
it's premium
types of content.
They use the word premium.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be great.
Yeah. But and then we've also seen Holy Water, Fox Entertainment investing into Holy Water as well. So where do you see the vertical video space going next?
Vertical video space or short form mini dramas? Because I think those are different things, right? There is long form vertical video. There's short form vertical video. There's feed based short form vertical video. There's a lot of ways to carve it up. And I think what the short form places like Drama Box and the other ones, or whatever it's called, have found is a untapped lane where there's still a bit of a moat on the production side and a lack of revenue on the distribution side, where they've found this little gap to shoot through where they can monetize it and monetize it well. But I also think that when it comes to short form content like that, there will be groups that are able to produce similar, if not more premium content at scale in the same way that these other players that you mentioned are getting into it, or at the very least, it'll have the same value to the audience, and they'll be able to figure out a business model that is workable on one of these platforms that reaches 1 billion plus people, as opposed to the smaller paid-for platforms that these companies have created that doesn't have that same reach. And when audiences say, well, I'm getting the same or similar value out of the content on this platform that I'm already on that has all this other stuff that I also like, why am I paying you money to do it? Right. And it'll be the same exact thing that you're seeing happen in traditional versus digital now. And the apps don't have the same runway, scale, or time existing that TV and film has had. And so they won't have a moat. And I don't see it as a long-term play.
So you're saying that vertical drama, for example, will naturally more move towards social platforms. Is that what you're saying?
1,000%. 1,000%.
It's willingness to pay, isn't it? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why would I pay for it? And there will be people that figure out, if they haven't already, and I think they have, you look at like an Alan Chicken Chow, for example, how to make this content on an ad-supported platform, whether that's through sponsorship, whether it's leveraging that audience into their longer form. It says, to me, it's like, well, why am I going to give you this content for production budget and some margin, right? It's teeny tiny, right? Versus just own it and keep it on my own platform. And, I don't know all the business models, but to me, it feels like fleeting.
So following up with Fox investing in Holy Water, do you expect to see a lot more traditional media companies acquiring digital studios and building their own studio networks of digital-first companies?
Yeah, I would be surprised if they didn't. The traditional Hollywood studios, many of them got burnt on their early investments in the space.
Vice Media is obviously a really good example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one kind of like was a straddled the fence in a lot of ways, right? And had a whole raft of other issues. But, I think where we're at now is that the, creator economy, digital media has matured with real business models, and people understand, how that revenue actually flows and how it works. And there's much better diligence and ability to understand where the revenue comes from and how it flows. I don't know if there's a ton of digital media studios or companies out there that are of the scale that is meaningful to traditionals currently, but I think we are getting there closely. And I also think it means that there's an opportunity for people like me to pull these amazing IPs and creators together and provide them a platform to really grow their businesses to their full potential. And potentially something like that becomes interesting to a traditional media studio looking for something in the digital space that is of a scale that is, interesting to them.
Yeah. Well, and finally, what's next for you then? You've exited a couple of businesses and been very successful today. Where you're obviously skating to where the puck's heading now with your new business.
Okay.
What is that? Can you give us a bit of a clue on what you're going to be basing your next few years on focusing on?
Well, I think there's a ton of really great companies in the digital space that would love to work with, and starting to have some really great conversations, and hopefully it leads to something great. Ultimately, I'd love to make a digital studio that all future digital studios are based upon, and so that means best in class, and that's kind of what I'm looking to do moving forward. So more to come on that.
Is that acquisition? Are you looking to acquire a digital studio?
I don't know if there are digital studios out there that are of the scale of what I want to build, but there's certainly lots of digital media companies
that you could roll up together and maybe make that mega studio.
I don't like the term roll up, but certainly there's a lot of people that I'd love to find a way to work together.
Well, Matt, thank you. It's been fascinating speaking with you. Thanks for coming on TellyCast, and best of luck with the market, and look forward to chatting with you again at some point.
Thank you for having me.
I'm here with Cecile Olsen, SVP of non-scripted content here at ITV Studios. Hello, Cecilia. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you in Cannes?
Yeah, I'm really good. This is, how fabulous. The sun's out. We're getting our last little bits of sunshine before the darkness of winter descends on us. So we're going to be talking about your unscripted slate here at ITV Studios that you're launching at MIPCOM. Yep. Tell me what are the highlights that, new shows that you're launching here?
Well, I'm really excited to be here, obviously, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the stand is looking beautiful.
It is.
It's also looking a little bit magical. Do you feel like we're sort of engrossed in nature when you're on the stand?
I think it's like a secret garden.
It is like a secret garden, and there's ladybirds just over there on the wall, and there's lots of flowers and plants and greenery. And it's exactly that, because we are launching a show called Secret Garden, which is made by Plimsoll. And it's literally all about what's happening in your own secret garden that you don't know about. So it's your garden. You think you know everything that's going on in there, but you don't. So in every episode, we go to different gardens all around the UK, and really we meet the creatures that live in it. That is always there, but that you don't see because you close the door and you go indoors. The other thing that we're also launching, which is also to do with nature, I suppose, is Ages of Ice. And this is an entirely different thing to Secret Garden. Ages of Ice is a science project. It is made by Northern Pictures, who's an Australian company. It's commissioned by ABC in Australia and PBS in America. And it is really all about how we now, as humans, are venturing into the coldest corners of the world. We call them polar-nauts, because like astronauts are going into the, almost like into space, but these coldest places in the universe is minus 45 degrees. It is like going to space. And what they're doing is they're going to try and take lots of scientific examples and research and trying to understand what's happening to the environment right now before it's too late. Because where they are going is lots of ice, and ice holds the key to all of the universe mysteries. And so that's what they're doing. So they are the polar-nauts. They are venturing where we wouldn't go. Karina, the producer, is telling us how, for 8 weeks, there'll be nobody there. They don't see anybody. And it's just silence and quiet. And all you could hear is like the ice cracking or maybe melting. And then one day, all of a sudden, she saw lots of whales, lots of species of different type of whales coming on. And you know what? They were on a boat. And they were so excited because the whales thought of them almost like a plaything. Oh, who are you? How exciting to see you. And of course, they're so excited because nothing ever happens up there because it's just quiet and peaceful and lovely. There you go. So that's 2 shows that we're launching.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I really like the sound particularly of Secret Garden as well, because that's like nature, obviously in your back garden, but literally feet away from you, which we often think of natural history as Africa or looking at far-flung places and amazing creatures that are out there in the world. But actually, this is, what's amazing that's happening a few feet from where you're sitting.
Exactly that. And I think you don't know all the creatures. I guess a fox you might recognize because it's quite a big thing and you'll see it and it's there. But it's also the smaller things that happens in your garden. And I think that to understand that there's a world that's there that you don't see and now you get to see it, that's the brilliance of that show. And I think that's the fun thing about it as well. And because Plimsoll is so good at making stories and creating, fairy tales almost in a roundabout way, but from real things that is actually there. That's what the beauty is of Secret Garden.
And another show on your slate that you've just announced, I've just been in the press conference, seen you announced it, and this is, forgive me, I won't get the title right, but it's focusing on Hitler's DNA.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So this is a show that's made by Blink Films. It's quite extraordinary, actually, because they have managed to find the DNA, a sample of DNA from Hitler. And of course, what you're trying to set out to try and achieve is who was the man, what was the evil of the man, and can it actually be explained through his DNA? That's the revelations that happens in this film. And I think you get to understand more about him and him as a human being, but maybe actually that we're not excusing what he was or how he behaved, but maybe through the DNA you can understand a bit more about how he was made in terms of his makeup and how evil came from somewhere, but actually had some issues.
Yeah, and I mean, this is presumably the DNA testing is a little bit more detailed than the sort of stuff that you get on Ancestry or whatever, consumer kind of DNA tests. I mean, what sort of detail can it provide then in terms of knowledge of a person like?
I mean, it can tell you, how you are created, if you are missing certain body parts, which is part of what we're going to learn in this particular documentary. But it can also tell you a little bit about your mental ability. And he was affected by his illness, or his DNA made him in a way where he maybe wasn't quite behaving like other people behave. And it's extraordinary how the DNA makeup can do that to you. It's almost like, computers are made up of lots of coding and software, and DNA is the same thing. Humans are made up of DNA, which is in effect our software. And so we can learn, therefore, certain things about you as a human being by looking at your, DNA software.
And so anything else on the slate that you're announcing?
So we are now representing the Vice catalog, and everything that is going on Vice in America is coming our way now. It's available to everybody around the world, and it's lots of really fun shows. And one of the new ones coming in is called Into the Void, which is really about the history of heavy metal. And I think what's interesting about that is, if you are a really massive fan of heavy metal, of course you're going to want to know everything there is to know about people who are in that space.
I'm a massive fan.
I was going to say, I feel like you might be one. But even if you're not a fan of heavy metal, this is really telling you the ins and outs of all the different bands, how they all got created. Clearly, the Osbournes are part of it. I mean, it's sad now because of what happened recently with Ozzy, obviously. But Sharon's on there. She's talking about, how it all came about, her life. But it's also, because it's Vice, you get all the investigative part of it as well. So they really go deep into trying to understand the music, the fandom, all the different bands, the ups, the lows. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it sounds right up my street. That's fantastic. Cecilia, thank you so much for joining us. Really varied and exciting slate. So congratulations on all of that, and have a great MIPCOM.
Thank you, and you too.
Okay, so I'm here with Tobias Hoss from Lunar X. How are you doing, Tobias?
So far, so good. Thanks for having me.
That's not at all. Great to have an investor in the creator economy space join us on the show. That's something that we're really interested in. A lot of the commercial models and the developing creator economy. Obviously, everybody at MIPCOM is talking about creator economy this year. So tell us about Lunar X and what sort of investments you've made to this point and what your strategy is in this space.
Yeah. So in short, we turn YouTube channels into global brands. And the thesis basically being that we acquire YouTube businesses. So not just the channel, not just the assets, but really the underlying business. And we then help them grow beyond YouTube. Yeah. So that means launching on new platforms, launching in new languages, but even beyond content. Yeah. So which product categories are exciting for this target audience? How can we create this product content flywheel, so that the content then reinforces product sales, and even beyond that, So we also have a music division, we have an event division. Just last week had a fashion show in Dallas in collaboration with Vid Summit. So always thinking from an IP and franchise building lens, how can we take this YouTube channel, that show, and expand it into additional areas. Yeah.
Okay, so you're really an IP business essentially that's investing in creators and different commercial and being able to realize commercial opportunities around creators.
Exactly. Yeah. So we take a majority stake in those businesses, and then together with the teams and those digital studios as well as creators, work on those initiatives, and really work with the entire team. And then rather help them when it comes to the back-end offices tasks, so like hiring people, taxes, legal stuff, financials. And then also on the value creation, especially the piece of business building beyond YouTube. Yeah, so entering those areas that I mentioned, product, events, music. That way trying to create a IP that is bigger than a YouTube channel.
Okay, so give us some examples of recent investments you've made and how you've scaled them.
Yeah, so we, for example, invested into a large US business called Serious Media from Matt Pat and his wife Stephanie Patrick. And that business is basically 4 channels when we acquired it. We then together launched a 5th channel in the style vertical, and now have expanded that business into events. So have hosted this fashion show, Creators in Fashion, where creators showcase their product lines, and we basically demonstrate that content creators these days are entrepreneurs and like making ways beyond content. Then we also do have a product business there. So we just revealed a few weeks back our Seriverse product platform around the same IP, Serious Media, where we do our own branded products. We call it products because it's like higher quality. We don't consider it as merch, but products. And also do collaborations. We have a collaboration with Poppy Playtime, an indie horror game, where we will also have another collection around the launch of their next release. And even like licensing deals. There will be a Serious branded card game in 2,000 Walmart stores later this month. So it's really about, okay, hey, what is that audience about? What do they care? And how can we take this channel beyond? And so with Serious, for example, entering events, entering licensing, entering products, and like even content syndication and dubbing. So bringing it onto new platforms, Roku, Amazon, Tubi, bringing it into new languages. So there we've basically done many of those levels. For another IP, an educational one called Economics Explained, I, for example, together with the team, produced an original. There we had a co-production deal with Curiosity Stream, which is an educational streamer. Also launched spin-off channels, launch in new languages. So it really depends on the channel and the audience, but we always then try to look at those different areas to create a franchise and IP on top of that YouTube channel.
Okay, so how, in terms of genres that there's quite a wide range of genres you mentioned there. I mean, are there specific genres that you target? Yeah,
so as of now we have 3: kids animation, education, and edutainment. In the early days, we focused on kids content because back then, the Moonbug Candle Media example was very present. And we thought, okay, hey, kids content is the way to go because there was this prominent example and 3 billion, I guess, exit to Candle Media back then. But we then figured out that our expertise and background works better for non-kids content, and then pivoted towards the educational and edutainment content, which we now focus on, given it's a little bit easier, there's less regulation, and you can do all of these kind of things I mentioned easier than in the kids space, at least for us. So now we focus on positive impact, YouTube first, educational content, I would say, or at least some kind of educational touch, so that you don't regret consuming the content, but
that's safe.
You have some kind of lesson.
Looking at that as brand safe, essentially.
Yes, brand safe and like positive impact. Ideally, there's some kind of transformation. After the video, ABC, you're able to do this and that. So that it's something where, it's positive content, so to speak.
And is your background working in the creator economy? I mean, and tell us about the team that focus on this area within your business.
So my background is commercial and strategy. So I was at McKinsey before, and hence rather bring those capabilities to the creator economy. So being able to structure and plan and run projects, to think through what is like the right structure for these kind of projects. Who do we need to onboard to run that? And also bringing expertise from areas outside of the content world. So like e-commerce, launching and running events, and even the music space. But like most of it, to be honest, was just learning by doing. And having a kind of structured analytical mindset and digging into those topics, talking to a lot of people, understanding it better, and learning by doing.
Okay.
And
I mean, do you see when you, well, first of all, how do you value a creator business?
Yeah, so there's different approaches, but I think most of it ultimately is multiple based, as you would value any business. Yeah, so like what is the EBITDA, what is the operating profit of that business, and how risky is that business, and then you basically pay a multiple on that. Yeah, so let's say a business is dependent on one person, it's dependent on one platform, and it only has one revenue stream. Yeah, say it's like a one-man or one-woman show with AdSense revenues on YouTube, then this business rather maybe has a multiple of 3 to 4 because it's very risky. Whereas if you have a business that is present on many platforms, has diversified revenue streams, so not just ad revenues, but maybe already a membership and maybe products, as well as a strong operating model with a team and like codified knowledge and processes, then you might be talking about like creator economy companies that we've seen exit for 20 and beyond. And so it's a big range, but ultimately depends on the business, its characteristics, its growth outlook. But yeah, that's the range we see in the market.
Okay. And as I said earlier on, MIPCOM is focusing on the creator economy for the first time. How do you see this space evolving in the next year, for example? I mean, clearly you're here as an investor. I mean, are you having meetings with creators here, or because are there that many creators here? I know there are some. We've met them and spoke to them, but tell us what you're doing at MIPCOM. Yeah,
I think it's figuring out that conference, and so it's mostly for business development purposes and also meeting creators. But yeah, given that YouTube also is present this year, we felt like, okay, hey, that might be a good signal. And I also heard from other contacts in the space that they will attend the first time this year. So we also wanted to check it out. And yeah, it's mostly like business developing, meeting creators, potentially negotiating co-production deals, finding platforms that are willing to work with YouTube channels and maybe come up with like a new format where we then can use our reach to promote their platform or their like streaming services. They finance the project. Yeah, deals like that I think are interesting to many creators and YouTubers. So that's how we look at it. And I think both ways, traditional media can learn from content creators in digital media and the other way around. So for example, content creators, I would say, can learn when it comes to franchise building, what more traditional companies are really good in, how to then take that IP, put it into products, put it into experiences like Disney, for example, and build a true franchise across media, as well as thinking through programming well in advance, having like clear formats, which some content creators like approach a little bit differently or a little bit more chaotic and messy. So operationalizing that and putting that structure might help many content creators to professionalize their business. And I think that way, like both worlds can learn from each other. And like traditional media, then rather having this mindset of piloting things, looking into data, using YouTube maybe as a testing ground, and only green-lighting big productions thereafter. So being a little bit more nimble, being a little bit more agile, I think is something some more traditional players could test out.
Yeah. And finally, I mean, with your background in McKinsey, you do look a lot at research and insights and growth of this market, because that's obviously the wider opportunity. I mean, where do you see the business going in the next 12 months then when it comes to the creator economy and the opportunity for you?
Yeah, I think in general the space is strongly growing, and like Goldman Sachs is, I think, projecting that it will be like a massive market, $500 billion, I think, 500 billion in a few years, and so I think the space is growing, and we rather consider other players in the space as peers instead of competitors. So I think it comes down to being open-minded, collaborating, and there's enough space for everyone. And I think many creators want to work with brands, for example, more directly. So I think there will be a lot of innovation in the space, like creators becoming potentially even chief marketing officers of like big corporates and brands, creators coming onto cap tables of businesses instead of just doing like one-off brand deals. So I think that kind of true partnership and more long-term oriented collaboration we will see more of, and having creators in businesses and having long-term partnerships rather than just doing one-off deals and treating them just as talent, because most creators nowadays are entrepreneurs and have like their own businesses, small, medium, even large businesses, like, I don't know, Dude Perfect, Damen, Mystical, all big media companies nowadays.
Tobias, thank you so much for joining us. Really exciting time for the market, I think, when it comes to creator economy. Lots of opportunity, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about some new investments from you over the next couple of months.
Yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm here with Matt Campion, the boss of Spirit Studios. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm a boss.
You are boss. You are boss.
I'm very well, mate.
Yeah. MIPCOM final boss.
MIPCOM final. Could that be my new Instagram handle, please?
Listen, great to see you. I think last time we spoke was about a year ago in this very place. And we talked about all the developments that are happening with Spirit Studios. So let's first of all touch on one of your most recent successes. That was an Ed Gein documentary show. Tell us about that.
So Ed Gein, as the world now knows, was one of the worst psycho killers to have ever lived. Netflix have just done their monster series on him, the drama. And we got chatting to Hearst, Sky Crime and Investigation, sort of almost a year ago, seeing the news that was coming and feeling that a factual piece would really help, deliver something slightly different in the market. So we've created a 2-part special. So it's called Ed Gein Original Psycho. Ed Gein, for those that don't and haven't seen the Netflix news, was the guy that inspired Silence of the Lambs and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Psycho, and he was someone that was very, very troubled from his childhood, who ended up becoming a prolific serial killer. But we approached it in a really interesting way, and it's, I think, sort of the thing about this project that feels exciting and sort of innovative from a Spirit perspective. We're always trying to do things that are new. Is that we've been able to produce a 2-part special that has used sort of production techniques that we've not used before, and it's come out really well. So 12% of it is generative AI video. And what's interesting there is that, we didn't have the Netflix budgets to go and produce big reconstruction scenes and all that kind of stuff. But what we wanted to do was be able to create something that would enhance our historical storytelling and not feel as abstract as some stock libraries can. And so being able to sort of prompt what we wanted to help tell the story, opposed to searching for something that vaguely represents the thing that people are talking about on screen.
And one of the other recent announcements that we've seen from Spirit is the partnership with Night Train Digital on a new vertical drama series. And, there's a lot of talk about that on the Croisette at the moment, particularly in the wake of the Holy Water investment by Fox Entertainment. So it really feels like there's a significant moment in microdrama or vertical drama, or whatever the terminology that everyone would like to use for it. How do you see the opportunity in microdrama, and is the vertical opportunity only in drama?
No. I mean, to answer that to begin with, I think we're going to see it in reality and in all sorts of different documentary. I think we're going to see it in all sorts of different genres. I think the reality play could be really exciting. You look at a show like Married at First Sight, every every ad break is a cliffhanger, and I think it would fall really well into this kind of modern format. We produced a podcast drama last year with some really great names: Danny Dyer, Lorraine Ashbourne, written by Kelly Shirley, a project called Raw. And off the back of that, got interested in how do we do drama scripted in other forms. And so we were talking to Night Train about doing more audio drama and building a more of an always-on sort of soap, I suppose. And then the microdrama thing started to become a thing in the industry. And microdrama, from all of the research and the development that we've done, is very different to the scripted world. We're in pre-production on our first scripted drama at the moment, and have been working in scripted for some time through comedy and now in actual drama. That process is vastly different to the micro world, the vertical world, and I suppose that's because it's in its infancy, and also it's a different way of consuming the content, and so the rules have to change. In this space, we are, with Night Train, really excited about it. We're at the writing stage at the moment. We're working with a team of a couple of writers. The format, as most people will have probably heard by now, is 90-second episodes and 60 of them. So you're sort of making a 90-minute film. And every episode has to have a cliffhanger because you need people to scroll on to the next one. We are in talks with a number of these short-form drama platforms. So we will make a decision on who we start with soon. But I think we will go down producing for a platform to begin with, where there's monetization, and then once we've done the first one, all being well, that works, we can then release the second one onto that platform and then release the first one into the social world. And we're going to build that community as we go as well. We're looking at creating a companion podcast and some behind-the-scenes content with the creators that are starring in it. But your bigger question there really is what's the big vision? What's the future? And it's building brands. You know, I think there's a couple of things that we've been talking about lately that seem to be trends in the market, that these microdramas are now turning into fan fiction. They're going the other way around. So for us, books, TV shows, and movies on other platforms, in other disciplines, I think is key. I think whenever we produce anything at Spirit, we always think about what is IP 360 is our thing, and it's like, how do we build a brand out of this? And so if we can build a community that really loves this brand, and it can be ongoing and returnable, and we can do more with it in different places, then that's kind of the bigger
So, final question. We're here at MIPCOM. We've seen the TV industry start to embrace the creator economy for the first time. We've seen YouTuber here in an official capacity for the first time. It feels like the pendulum has really swung now. But at Spirit, you've been established as a digital-first business, but that doesn't mean digital only, in a sense that, you work with a lot of traditional broadcasters as well. So it's from the podcast side of things, microdrama, we're talking about, but the Gielen project you mentioned earlier on. So how do you see working with traditional broadcasters now? How do you see that sort of developing and your skill sets delivering against what they need?
I think when you look at Spirit's the four disciplines, we have 4 studios in the business. We make television, scripted and unscripted. We make podcasts, so we have a network of podcasts and have a TV spec studio in central London that produces high quality. We make a lot of branded content, and then we also have our own YouTube MCN. So we run about 200 plus, which is growing channels, some of our own, some third party. And so we really have a real deep understanding of how all of those disciplines work. And so for us, we're seeing us work with broadcast in so many more ways than we used to. And in sort of the bigger programming side of things as well. So at the moment, we're producing a branded content series for a broadcaster. We're producing a number of TV-style podcast type shows always on for broadcasters that live in the audio world and could be chat shows on their streamer or even be broadcast on linear. We are doing more with AI in the history space and in the drama space. We're working on projects that see us being able to take the budgets that are available, but then scale the production values through means that we wouldn't have had before. And the way I look at that is that, the craft's not changing, it's just the tools that we use are. And the demand for the content is still there. The broadcasters have still got to fill their hours, but the budgets have fallen because money's gone to social. But they still need to fill those hours. So the application of AI enables you to deliver to smaller budgets, right? Absolutely. And exactly that. And we're also we're doing different deals with broadcasters that we've not done before. We're doing partnerships and working through acquisition teams, and it's not all straightforward commissioning. We're doing joint ventures. We're trying to be as creative commercially as we can be, knowing that we can produce really high quality programming cost effectively, and that's not putting us out of the market of doing big budget things, because we still do. Yeah. That's just saying that actually there are ideas that are achievable that can punch way above their weight financially. And I had a conversation just 15 minutes ago, and we were saying that actually, if you think of yourself as someone that is able to get the money together to invest in a product, a pair of trainers, you then sell them later and try and build that brand and make those monies. I think the content industry is going that way, and that's certainly more of the kind of deals that we're doing.
Well, I wish you all the very best. In a year's time, Matt, we'll do another conversation. We'll see where we've come. I mean,
we'll be on your yacht. We'll be on the Telecaster yacht.
That'd be nice. We should aim for that. Absolutely. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us, Matt. So, Gary, we're here at MIPCOM. There's lots of talk about the way the digital and also traditional TV is starting to evolve and blend. Tell us what All 3 International is doing in this space.
Yeah, so my role as EVP of Strategic Development at All 3 Media International is to look at digital publishing initiatives. So things where we as a company are publishing directly onto platforms. So we have a series of fast channels. We've got SVOD services. We've been working with our sister company, Little Studios, to launch some YouTube channels. And then it's how we sort of join the dots, get that into the social space, and really bring an audience to those opportunities.
So you've got an extensive catalogue, right? So give us a sense of how much catalogue that you have and what sort of the opportunity is in digital for All 3.
Yeah, sure. So we've got 35,000 hours of content. And I think what's different for a UK distributor is that it's not like the sort of studio catalogues where you have series that have so many episodes. Because for a single IP channel, traditionally you'd need sort of 150 episodes plus to make that work. So we will take a brand like Midsomer Murders, which is in its 25th season. We've just announced the 26th season today. And that has a really successful fast channel in the States, all across North America. But we'll also create new digital brands to house some of the series that are fantastic, but just don't have that volume of episodes.
So for Midsomer Murders, for example, you say you've got a fast channel. I mean, do you publish direct to YouTube as well for that particular brand?
Yep. So we have a YouTube channel, and where we have to, really work closely with our colleagues in TV sales is making sure that we're not destroying value that they're seeing still. It's a fantastic brand. People relicense those series over and over again. So we have to be very mindful of that in terms of what our digital footprint can be. But equally in the States, the market has moved to be a lot more non-exclusive in library. So we can, Midsomer has so many partners now in the States, whether that's Acorn as the premium SVOD partner and they have their exclusive window, or whether that's the PBS affiliates across America who take, various parts of the library. And then what we've created with the Fast channel is a kind of hub for that, where we will interact with talent. We will get somebody like Neil Dudgeon to select his 10 favorite episodes. We'll run that as a marathon. We'll interact with the Facebook page or, the Insta page. We'll get the fans to vote for their favorite episodes and we'll run that as a marathon. So we're doing a lot of stuff in that space. But yeah, there's also a YouTube channel, and we'll switch on the markets as they become available to us.
Right. Okay. So we talked about 35,000 hours or so. So it's a huge catalogue.
Yeah.
So how do you organise that when it comes to YouTube and other channels? Yeah. I mean, how do you organise all of that? Are you looking at bringing content together under particular genres?
Yeah, and we've created a series of digital brands, if you like. So our first one was back in 2020. In terms of the fast space, we were actually doing something back in 2019 that I'll talk about in a minute. But in 2020, we launched our first fast channel, which is So Real. And that's our lifestyle and reality play. So that's, shows like Tattoo Fixers, fantastic show, but there's only 4 or 5 seasons of that. It's things like Hotel Hell. In some territories, we can do Kitchen Nightmares. So it's bringing together those sort of bigger reality brands that will be quite noisy. So we have that in North America in Fast. We have that as a YouTube channel now. We've got it in the UK in Fast. And then we're looking at SWOT opportunities around that, where, you can be a little bit more adventurous in the content that you put into that space.
Yeah. And is any of that content original content, or is it purely 100% catalogue?
So for that brand, it's 100% catalogue. But what we're also doing is working with talent. So we have a channel with Monty Don called Gardening with Monty Don originally. Yeah. And it's available in North America. It's also available on YouTube in multiple markets. But we will work with Monty and his producer to create compilation episodes. So we're not sort of going into the business of, standing up a massive production. But what Monty will do is curate and present some highlights based on season, based on a particular topic. So we have, to a degree, a sort of mini original for that channel.
I imagine that with that extensive catalogue and with many, many of your show brands as well, the data that you're getting from viewing figures and all the metadata that you're getting, I mean, that gives you the opportunity to potentially reboot brands for linear TV as well, if a show is doing particularly well in a particular territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so everybody in the company has access to that data. We have a system that we built in-house. So when we're talking, particularly with our North America team, it's really interesting for them to see how titles are performing, both in that sort of revenue share AVOD space on the platforms, but also in the fast space, also in the YouTube space. And so we can actually see how those sort of brands line up. And it's things like that that sort of encouraged us. So, in 2019, we launched our first SVOD with Amazon subscriptions and Roku Premium for a brand called Inside Outside, which is a house and garden content brand. And that's been working really well. So we've moved that into the fast space now. So even within the digital team, we're looking at what's working in one space and can we move that into another space?
Yeah. So we've talked up to now about unscripted predominantly, but what about the scripted space? Because there's a lot of development in this area. A lot of announcements being made recently about vertical drama and talk us through what you're doing in the drama space.
Of course. So we've launched a channel in the UK called Demand Drama. And I guess the background of this is we know that Midsummer Murders works extremely well. And it works for a couple of reasons. One is that it's a very familiar brand with audiences in America. It's been around on cable before. It's been on Netflix before. So, most people watching the digital space in America know what Midsummer Murders is. But the other really key thing is that you can watch those episodes in any order. There's no real story arc. So for the fast space, you can tune in at any point and you're not trying to play catch up. So we were really mindful of this because we have some fantastic thrillers in the library, but you've really got to watch those episodes in sequence. Right? So we launched a brand called Demand Drama, which is our fast play for that in the UK. And again, it's got a YouTube channel, it's got a Facebook page, it's got an Insta page. So we're joining up all of that for audiences. And we do themed evenings on that. So we'll do sort of Crime Sundays or Thriller Thursdays. So we're giving people the opportunity to watch, more limited episodes of series, but in a block. So rather than having to have the problem is with fast is, you tune in on Monday night, you come back on Thursday night. And if the story's just been running, then you're trying to play catch up. So we're really theming that schedule to make that work.
So, in general then, Gary, the worlds of digital and traditional, more linear TV are clashing and mixing and melding, as I mentioned earlier on. What where do you think things are heading? In a year's time, what are the major kind of changes we might see?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think what would be nice to see is more consistency of the fast offering across devices. At the moment, I think that really holds us back from an advertising perspective. So, I was talking to somebody about this a couple of days ago, and it's a real patchwork at the moment. You take a channel and it might be available on Samsung, but not on LG, or, it might be available through a Rakuten app, or there's so many ways you can consume it. But if you're trying to buy a campaign in the UK or the US, you can't really buy a national campaign because it's such a checkerboard at the moment.
You have to buy it via a TV brand, essentially.
Exactly, via TV brand. Sometimes the platforms want to sell that themselves. Sometimes you can sell it yourself. So it's not even coming from one source. So I think there's something around tidying that space up and how you make that easier for advertisers to work with.
And finally, we saw a couple of announcements in the last week or so around vertical drama. I touched on that earlier on. And, that is clearly a really interesting space with Fox Entertainment investing in Holy Water. We've also seen Spirit Studios and Night Train Digital coming together to create a new vertical drama series. How are you viewing this space?
I think there's a raft of opportunities, especially when you've got a catalogue of 35,000 hours. And so the conversations we're having with a few parties are, can you take that long-form content and with some AI and some human editing intervention as well, can you make those traditional long-form episodes into micro-series? So
That's interesting.
Yeah, so can you take an episode of a show and it will become a 50-episode series? And that works really well on, story of the week kind of shows. So that might be in drama, but it might also be in unscripted. It might be in real crime, for example. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. We're also looking at it from the point of view of is there a format potential? We're doing a lot with scripted formats. One of our formats won a Frapper Award the other night. So can you take that scripted format model and bring it into the microdrama space and actually bring in writers and producers that are experienced in that space to play with our brands and make them a success in that space?
And finally, what does MIPCOM, the rest of MIPCOM, look like for you then?
So the rest of MIPCOM, today for me is very much a sort of exploratory day. I think what we're seeing with Fast is it's had a long sort of ramp up in terms of fast growth year after year after year. I think it's a much more mature business. So we're not seeing many new partners come in, but we are catching up with all of our partners and talking about new opportunities in that space. So, at the moment we're talking about pop-up channels. So if you take a brand like Demand Drama, could we pop out one of our longer series? It no longer has to be 150 hours. It might be 30, 50 hours. And can we make a pop-up channel out of that will then reflect back to the master brand of Demand Drama? So we're having those sort of conversations about how we evolve that space. And then, we're looking absolutely at this microdrama space. I think we're using this market to learn a lot more about that space. Of course, we're looking at the sort of AI space and what the possibilities are for that. So for me, this market's a lot more sort of exploratory while the team are meeting with the platforms and getting on with the day-to-day.
All right. Well, I wish you all the best, Gary. Thank you very much for joining us.
Enjoy the rest of the market.
Well, that's about it for part 2 of our TellyCast MIPCOM special. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you again soon. Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop.